All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Empowered to Advocate podcast. And if you are tuning in on the day that this is going live, you are probably already fully back to school. Your child's already back in the classroom, probably have a full week of school under your belt. So hopefully it has been pretty smooth so far. And anything that's feeling a little rocky, you'll be able to implement maybe some of the strategies that you found here on the podcast to help smooth things out as you head fully into September. Today, we wanted to talk about, as we do start to enter into IEP season, IEP meetings coming up, starting to get invited to those meetings, talking about 5 reasons it's really important that you are, number one, invited to these meetings, and number two, that you are present and there as a full participant in the meeting. So we have 5 reasons for you today. We're going to go through them. And then if you have any questions, send us an email after you take a listen. So reason number one, Dana Marie, reason number one.
So this is like the textbook reason, right? So reason number one is because you are legally a part of the IEP team, right? By law, the school district needs to include you. You are a recognized member of the IEP team, and the school team needs to make every effort to include you in meetings and give you the necessary information that you need in order to fully participate, like Michelle said, in these meetings. So it's one thing to be invited to an IEP meeting as a parent or caregiver. That should be just like baseline. But you should also be up to date with any evaluations that have been completed for your child, any school district data, early in the year benchmarks, mid-year benchmarks, things like that. You should have, if you're in an IEP meeting, maybe in the third quarter of the school year, you should have the first 2 quarters of progress reports available to you. You should have a copy of last year's IEP where applicable. And if you don't, you should be able to ask for a copy and get one pretty quickly. So, we're going to go through some of the quote unquote more sort of important reasons, right? Or reasons why we really believe that parents are the key to team meetings and to IEP teams. But just as a baseline, just to begin with, it is part of special education law that you are included in these meetings, annual reviews, reevaluations, reconvenes, and that you are able to fully participate with whatever information you need in order to be able to do so.
Absolutely. So we have that legal reason, but also you know your child best. Even though the school team is with your child for the school day, most of the school team, except for maybe the classroom teacher, is with your child for a snapshot of the day even.
Sure.
You have been with your child since, for many of you, since point of birth or from point of adoption or receiving your child, right? So your child's with you most other moments when they're not in school. So
Yep.
even though there can be differences between how your child is at home versus at school, you still have really valuable insight into your child's strengths, your child's challenges, their developmental history. Nobody knows your child's developmental history better than you. If something has been going on for a long time, if it's a chronic sort of situation or condition, or if it's a more acute thing that has just started to begin overnight, right? You understand and know what your child's behavior is outside of school. You also know what are the effective strategies that you're able to use at home and things that have worked and things that have not worked, which can be really, really useful information for the school team when trying to implement strategies at school.
And one thing that we talk about, speaking of this like home to school communication and this kind of like transition between home and school and back again, which is actually our third reason, is accountability. We always talk about how we want parents and caregivers to be able to collaborate with the school team in a way that feels like not icky, non-combative, right? That feels like you really are working together on the same team, right? That you have the same goals for your child in mind. We really don't want parents to have to go, and obviously it happens sometimes that this is the case, but we don't want parents and caregivers to go into these conversations and meetings feeling super anxious and feeling like they're always having to fight for things with the school district and with the school team. With all of that said, while our ideal goal is collaborative IEP meetings and collaborative conversations, we know that as people who have worked in schools and worked outside of schools, we know that many people working inside of schools, including special ed teachers, A's, administrators, so on and so forth, are up to their eyeballs, quite frankly, have so much on their plate. Your child's special education liaison might have 10, 15, 20, 25 kids on their
Mhm.
caseload, and they may be responsible for evaluating those kids and writing their IEPs and ensuring that the IEPs are implemented appropriately and coordinating with their teachers and their specialists. And so it's just a lot. And so the third thing that we want parents to be able to realize is that you do offer a level of accountability, right? Like Michelle said, you know your child the best. And also, you are responsible for just your child or your children. And you may be able to catch something that a teacher or a school
Mhm.
team member who has an enormous caseload might not catch. And it might not be malicious and it might not be, you know, that they're trying to, pull the wool over your eyes or whatever, but just this level of accountability. And that can look like so many different things. It could be just catching a mistake, hit an IEP or an eval. At the team meeting, we discussed 2 times a week speech, reaching out to the team because they only put 1 time, and the team saying, oh my gosh, sorry, that was just like a clerical error. That was
Mhm.
we were trying to do. So accountability doesn't always have to be like you're going down for a fight or you're, trying to catch somebody doing the wrong thing, but it just can be your set of eyes on what's going on in school because you know your child the best and you know what they need, what services they're supposed to be getting, what accommodations they're supposed to be getting. I think on one of the last episodes I talked about as a teacher, I love when parents reach out to me at the beginning of the year to like
Yep.
set the tone for the year and for me to meet them and meet their kiddo and so on and so forth. In this way, if we have a good collaborative relationship, if I'm a teacher or special ed liaison and a parent reaches out and said, found a mistake on page 3 of the IEP, my response is very likely going to be like, oops, I'm
Yep.
sorry that one got by me, and it, like I said, could be a clerical error, could just be an innocent mistake. But you, as the parent or caregiver, regardless of really your relationship with the team and your relationship with your child's teachers and specialists, you're the sort of that last barrier of accountability, quite frankly, to ensure that whatever is discussed in these meetings, whatever you think is happening in school for your child, is actually happening both on paper and in practice. And you get to be the person who has eyes on that and who can then reach out to the school team if you see something go awry or if you
Mhm.
see something that was missed or like I said, an innocent mistake. So our number 3 reason for parents and caregivers being involved in this process is just offering that outside the school level of accountability, that outside the school set of eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of piggybacking on that reason for the importance of parental caregiver involvement in the IEP meetings and the IEP process is that you're actually supporting consistency between school and home, right?
Mhm.
When we have parent involvement in understanding behavioral expectations and understanding learning strategies that are being implemented, especially if they are modified learning strategies that are being used in the classroom, this is going to allow for less confusion for your child when they go between different environments. So if your teachers are reinforcing, and of course, especially with behavior, different environmental factors might mean that you need different strategies,
Of course.
but this is something that you need to talk about with home and school because otherwise it might actually, in fact, be more confusing and more
Yep.
difficult for your child to make progress in any environment if you're not being consistent or at least talking about that, right? And in terms of even learning how your child is learning math. And I know that there's like so much conversation out there about how bad the new math is. It's really you just unfamiliar with it. It's just different for you. However, if your child is struggling, let's say in math, and they're struggling with the way the teacher is teaching it, and then they go home and you're trying to teach them using the method you use, and they're still not quite getting it, it could be then just creating further confusion and
Mhm.
frustration for your
Yep.
child. Whereas, and I'm not saying that you need to learn every subject area strategies and be an expert in all those areas. That's why your child is in school, right? But trying to figure out what things you can help them best with at home. And then perhaps those other subject areas that are not as easeful for you to support them with, that can be something that can maybe worked on at home or discussed why it's so difficult for them in school. And then they can get the supports they need. So again, you're supporting the consistency between home and school, better communication between teachers and specialists and yourself is most likely going to provide better outcomes for your child.
Which brings us to our last one, number 5. It's actually really similar. It's, some students are lucky and maybe loop with a teacher for a couple years or loop with specialists for a couple years, sometimes maybe even more, 3 or 4 years, depending on, what types of placements or programs your child is in. But the only person, quite frankly, or the only people who loop with your child throughout their entire school career is you. And if your child has another parent or other parents and caregivers, those are the people who loop with your child throughout their entire school career. You are the one who can help to ensure that your long-term goals, their long-term goals, are being considered at every stage. In another episode, we talk a lot about transition. We'll be talking a lot more about that this school year, and how to appropriately transition plan for kids of all ages. But you're the one who knows what happened from K to 1, what's happening from 3rd grade to 4th grade. You're the one doing the big leap with them from
Yep.
8th grade to high school. And then the other big leap when they graduate from high school to whatever they're doing post-secondary, right? A transition program or college or, another tech program or things like that. So you're the one who does the long-term looping with your child, and you're the one who can ensure that long-term vision is kept
Yeah.
in play. And, we talked on our last episode, or maybe the one right before, we talked a lot about back to school and sort of the things to do back to school. And one of the things that's really hard is starting a new school year is making sure that the new team knows what happened last year,
Yep.
the good, the bad, and the ugly, what happened over the summer, if anything major shifted or changes happen, or your child made progress in some areas or is struggling in other areas. You're the one who knows all of that, right? You
Yep.
can help bridge these gaps between summer and a new school year, between different grades, between new teachers and teams. You are really the only one who can do all of that bridging for your child. And it's our last reason, and really the big reason why the school teams should appreciate you, obviously, as a team member, but also just value your input, knowing where you've come from with your child and also knowing where you hope to go with your child and where they hope to go, right? What they hope for their future as well.
Yeah. So you are an imperative, very, very important part of your child's IEP team, part of their evaluation team, wherever you are in this process, even if your child was ineligible for special education or ends up transitioning out of special education at some point in their educational career, your involvement in your child's education is so important for long-term positive outcomes and growth and progress. And we know for the IEP meetings, that legal reason is legally required under IDEA for school districts to be involving you in all of these IEP meetings, especially, all of them, particularly when big decisions are being talked about, right? But also for these 4 other reasons: promoting long-term success, supporting consistency between home and school, ensuring accountability, you know, this pure, simple fact that you know your child best.
Yep.
So hopefully this helps you feel more empowered to feel confident walking into these team meetings where it can so often feel like the school team is just talking at you when they should be talking with you. It should be a collaborative process, not a we're talking at you, you're just going to listen, and then you're just here just because we're told you're supposed to be here. It's way more than that.
It is way more than that. And if this is something that you struggle with or have historically struggled with, just having your voice heard at these team meetings or just when it comes to having conversations with the school team about your child, please reach out to us. We actually still have, I think, one more week of our back to school office hours. So if you're interested, we still have a couple of slots open for back to school office hours where you can jump on a call with us for 45 minutes for only $45. Which is a
Mhm.
highly discounted price for us, and just chat about how to make this transition to the new school year as smooth as possible. We can help you with really specific things related to the IEP or evaluations or just the process in general. Or we can help you craft some language for these
Mm.
conversations, craft some language for when you're in these IEP meetings, help you to build your repertoire so that you can communicate better with the school team. So reach out to us if that's something that is of interest to you. You can email us, like Michelle said, at empowered2, the number two, advocate at gmail.com. You can drop us a DM on Instagram, same thing, empowered to advocate. Send us a message however you would like, and we can send you the link for those office hours. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. As always, we hope, like Michelle said at the beginning, that this beginning of the school year has been as smooth as humanly possible, and that it continues to go that way for you as we enter into the fall. All right, everybody.
All right. Talk to you soon.